Okay, so coming down onto those hands and knees and then sending the hips back toward the heels, you can take your blanket and just gently rest it on the floor, allowing the forehead to come down onto the ground if that feels comfortable. And just allowing the weight of the hands to melt into the floor, the hips to sink down toward the feet. And take a few nice long deep breaths in through the nose and out of the nose. Softening the jaw, the shoulders with every exhale. And just taking a moment to tune into the sensations of the body. What are you feeling today? What do you need from the practice? And begin to rock the forehead from side to side. Just massaging that forehead space, releasing any tension in the neck. And then find a moment of stillness before you take one deep inhale. And then exhale to let it all go. Inhale again, and on your next exhale, we're going to come up into our tabletop. We want to get the shoulders over the wrists and the hips over the knees. You can keep your blanket there, but we're just taking a couple of rounds of cat-cow here. So dropping that belly down, arching the back, and inhale to look up. And then exhale to round the spine and look down toward the thighs. And we're just taking a couple of rounds of cat-cow here, just trying to coordinate your breath to the movement, just mobilizing the spine. And then finding a neutral tabletop, we're going to send the hips back to the heels once again. Walk your hands up onto your blanket about halfway. We're going to take that right hand behind the head, and we'll twist to tap that elbow to the forearm, and then inhale to lift and look up. Exhale, twist to tap, and then inhale to lift and look up. We're going to take that a few more times here on the right side, just exhaling as you release, and then inhaling as you lift up. Great job. Release that hand down to your blanket and float the left hand up behind the head. We'll twist to tap and then inhale to lift and look up. Just taking the other side here. I love doing this one because by sitting the hips back onto the heels, we're actually taking away that rotation of the low back, and we're focusing more on the mid back. The mid back plays a huge role in our posture, our neck health, our shoulder health. So you can release that hand, and we're actually going to come to a seated position. So I like to sit on my blanket. If you have low back pain or difficulty coming into a cross-legged position, you can actually sit up on a yoga block. That sometimes helps. But whatever you choose, let's get comfy here in a seated position. If you need to extend those legs out a little longer because it feels good on the hips, you can go ahead and do that. But just sitting up nice and tall here, rooting those sits bones down into the ground, growing tall through the crown of the head. Take one deep inhale, and as you exhale, drop that chin down to the chest, and we're going to rest the hands on the back of the head, allowing the weight of gravity gently pulling the head down toward the chest, stretching out the back of the neck. Of course, not being too aggressive. And then release the hands back to the thighs. We're going to inhale, lift up nice and tall, and take the gaze up toward the ceiling. Just stretching out the front of the neck, feeling that length in the front of the neck, maybe taking a little side bending, so rocking the head back and forth. And then find a moment of stillness and take the gaze back to the front. Dropping your left ear down to the left shoulder. You can take your left hand up and over the top of the head and just allow the weight of gravity, the weight of the hand to pull down on the head. Relax that shoulder down and away from the ear to stretch out the side of the neck. Take a deep inhale and exhale to release. Taking that other side, dropping right ear to right shoulder, reaching up and over to get a little extra stretch. Try to soften that shoulder away from the ear, creating some length throughout the side of the neck. Take a deep inhale. And as you exhale, release, bringing that head back to neutral. So taking our rotation here, we're gazing over the left shoulder and then over the right shoulder, just alternating between right and left here. Being gentle during these first movements of the neck. And then finding your center here, we're taking that right hand, or excuse me, your left hand, rooting it down to the ground. Reaching that right one up and over for a side body stretch here. So in this pose, I like to imagine I'm pressing the floor away from me, and that's going to open up the side of the ribs here. Breathe into that space. So we don't think about our rib cage as being important to mobilize, but you have these little muscles between every rib, and that helps to elevate and depress the ribs during your breathing. So really exploring those motions, so important for your breath, your posture. And then we'll exhale to release, and let's take the other side, rooting that hand down to the ground, pressing the floor away from you to open up the rib cage here, reaching that arm up and over. Find some nice deep breaths into that rib space. And then release to come back up through center here. We're going to take one of my favorite exercises. It's called the posture reset. So we are lacing our fingers together in front of the chest. We're going to exhale, press the palms down toward the floor, and then inhale to lift those palms up overhead. And as you exhale, release the arms down by your side. Let's take that 4-ish more times, coordinating your own breath to your movement here. Inhaling as you come up, exhaling as you release down by your side. This is such a nice one to do if you've been sitting down at your computer or watching TV for a little while. Just kind of allows you to check in with the spine, shoulders, the neck. And last one here, we're going to meet up overhead. And as you exhale, we're taking a twist off to the left side. So with any twist, we want to still keep the spine nice and long. So we're not leaning back on that back hand. So we're trying to stay lifted through the top of the head. Inhale, breathing into the rib cage, expanding that rib cage 360 degrees, so all the way around the body. And then as you exhale, release that twist. Arms come up overhead as you take your twist to the opposite side. Once again, sitting up nice and tall. Inhale to breathe in throughout all of the ribs. And then exhale. Maybe you take that twist a little deeper. Nothing too forceful during these first twists. And then exhale to release those arms overhead. We're going to take the hands to heart center for one moment. Really looping those shoulders down and back. And on your next exhale, we're going to work our way back into our tabletop position. But this time you can move your block or your blanket off to the side. We're actually going to grab both of your yoga blocks. If you only have one, that's fine. The main yoga block I want to be positioned underneath the head. If you have another one, you can put it on top of the mat off to the left side. Okay, so we're coming into a pose called thread the needle. We're going to put that left hand up on the yoga block or on your mat. We're going to inhale, sweep that right arm up, taking a spinal twist, and then exhale, threading that arm through that space, allowing the head to come rest down on your yoga block. Continue to take some nice deep breaths here. I love the use of the blocks in this pose, especially on the head, because it keeps the spine in a neutral alignment so you can get some good benefits from this pose. And then exhale, release, taking tabletop once again. We'll slide your upper block off to the right side of your mat now. Go ahead and place that right hand up on the block. Inhale to twist, lifting that left arm up toward the ceiling, and then exhale to release to thread that arm through. Resting that head on your yoga block. Go ahead and take some nice deep breaths here. And then exhale, release, coming back up into your tabletop. We are stacking one block on top of the other here. If you only have one, that is a-okay. We're going to place our elbows on the yoga block. Hands come together. You can either lace the fingers together or bring them into prayer position. But we're going to send the hips back as you drop the chest down between the arms. So where I feel this stretch is throughout the sides of the body. So those are muscles called your lats. And those are really important posture muscles. A lot of times they get tight because they get either under or overworked, depending on what's going on. Taking a nice deep breath into that entire rib cage. Maybe sinking down a little lower with every exhale. And then on your next exhale, release to come back up to tabletop. You can move your blocks off to the side, but keep them handy. Okay, so coming into our first downward facing dog of the day, we're going to position our hands up toward the top of the mat, index fingers face forward, spreading those fingertips out. We're going to tuck those toes and send the hips up and back into your first downward dog. I love keeping the knees bent here in this first down dog because we want to keep that spine long. So it's more important to keep the spine healthy than it is to get those legs straight. Try to relax the shoulders away from the ears, and then you can pedal one heel and then the other, just creating some openness throughout the back of the leg. And then taking your gaze up between the hands, we're going to march your feet up to meet your hands. And we'll inhale to come up to a flat back. So in other yoga classes, there's lots of forward folds. I try to avoid those for various reasons. We want to keep your spines nice and healthy here. So that's why we just come from the floor up to our flat back. Okay, so you're here, hands are on the shins. We're looping those shoulders down and back, drawing that chin in so we create length in the back of the neck. Take a couple of nice long breaths here, in through the nose and out through the mouth. On your next inhale, sweep those arms up overhead, bringing those hands together. Lacing the fingers together, index finger points up to the sky. Exhale, little baby back bend here. And then inhale to lift it up. Exhale, releasing the hands down by your side. We're taking our first tree pose of the day. So shifting your weight onto that right foot. Go ahead and grab a chair or a piece of furniture if you feel like you need it for some balance. But we're going to take the sole of the foot to the inner shin or the inner thigh, wherever it feels good tonight. Rooting down into the ground, lifting up and out of that hip. Bring those hands to heart center. Finding your drishti, that focal point in front of you. And if you wish, you can reach those hands up and out, growing your branches out nice and wide. How fitting next to our Christmas tree. And continue to hold there, focusing on the breath. And then exhale, release the foot down to the floor, bringing hands to heart center. Step that left foot back behind you. We'll open up into our warrior two. So just a little recap here. If you look down at your feet, we want the heel of the front foot to bisect the arch of the back foot. So it's kind of, if you drew a line, it would kind of look like a T, a perpendicular line. That front toe can turn in slightly. That's going to load our quadricep a little bit better, so that front thigh muscle. Reach those fingertips out nice and long. Relax the shoulders down and away from the ears. Draw your belly button into the spine. Take your gaze down that front middle finger. Nice, powerful warrior two here. And breathe. We're going to flip your front palm up toward the ceiling. Exhale, reverse warrior, bringing that back hand to the back knee. Reaching your fingertips up toward the ceiling. Finding your breath. Coming back into your warrior two, we're taking the front elbow to the front knee now and reaching that back hand up toward the ceiling, or you can bring it up to frame the ear for extended side angle. Taking a nice long breath here, building that strength in the thigh muscle. And then bringing those arms back through your warrior two. We're going to step off the back foot to come up to the top of your mat. Excellent job. Taking the other side now, I'm just going to turn to face you. So shifting your weight onto that left leg. Hands come to heart center. Finding your drishti, your focal point in front of you. We're taking our tree pose on the other side. Connecting the sole of the foot to the inner shin or the inner thigh. Rooting down into the ground as you grow tall through the crown of the head. Reaching those branches up and out. Continue to work with the breath here. Try to relax the shoulders away from the ears. And then releasing that foot down to the floor, bringing those hands to heart center in front of you. Stepping your right foot back now to open up to the side of your mat, setting ourselves up for our warrior two on the other side. So again, if you look down, we want the heel of the front foot bisecting the arch of the back foot. That front toe turns in slightly and we're stacking the knee over the ankle. Okay. Drawing that belly button in toward the spine to flatten out the low back. We're going to reach the fingertips out long. Try to relax the shoulders away from the ears as you take the gaze down that front middle finger. A lot going on in this warrior two pose. Flipping your front palm up toward the ceiling. Exhale, reverse warrior, taking the back hand to the back knee, reaching those fingertips up toward the ceiling. Finding a nice long breath here for your reverse warrior. And then coming back up into that warrior two, bringing the front elbow to front knee, extended side angle, reaching the hand either up toward the ceiling or up to frame the ear. Taking a nice deep breath here. This is all a practice. Stick with it. And then bringing those arms back up. We're going to step off your back foot to come up to the top of your mat. Great job. I'm just going to turn back around here. So inhale, sweep those arms up overhead. Exhale, we're going to hinge forward at the hips, coming into your flat back once again. Okay. So trying not to round that upper back, but rather looping shoulders down and back. Soft bend in the knees as you stick your hips back a little bit. You should be able to feel the weight in your heels, and you should be able to wiggle your toes. So once you find that, we're going to reach the hands forward, lifting that chest up nice and proud. Gazes forward. This might be enough in chair pose. If you want a little added challenge, we can reach those arms up overhead, but check in with what's going on with the low back. We want to draw that belly button into the spine to flatten out that low back. Squeeze the knees together, squeeze the hips together. And 3, 2, 1. Exhale, release, come back up to standing. So mountain pose, spiraling the palms to face forward, really drawing the shoulder blades together. Inhale. And on your next exhale, go ahead and bend the knees, reaching down toward the floor. We're going to step your right foot back, finding a nice low lunge here. If you have blocks, you can use those to bring the floor up to you a little bit. I love using blocks here. It keeps my spine nice and aligned. Really lifting that back kneecap here, exploring that range of motion of the hip. Maybe trying to lift that chest up as much as you can. We'll exhale, release that knee down to the ground, untucking the toe. Sweep the arms up overhead. Exhale, we're going to cactus the arms, drawing the elbows down toward the rib cage here. So they're coming down into this W shape almost, but we're lifting the chest up. Exhale, release those hands back up overhead. Bringing those hands down onto your blocks. We're going to take one block and put it on the inside of the arch of that front foot, okay? Placing your right hand on the block, tuck that back toe, hover the knee, and then inhale to sweep that left hand up toward the ceiling, taking a gentle spinal twist. Try to straighten that back knee. And then exhale, release that twist, lowering that knee to the ground and untucking the toe. We can use our blocks here. And we are going to step off that back foot to come back up to the top of the mat. Pretty generous bend in the knees here. So we can take the other side now. Step your left foot back. So we can take our lunge on the other side, okay? So my front knee is stacked over my ankle. My feet are aligned on railroad tracks here, so meaning they're not one right in front of the other, but you're widening your base of support, okay? Let's loop those shoulders down and back, peeling that chest up off of the thigh, and then slowly lower that knee down to the ground, untucking the toe. Let's sweep the arms up overhead, and then exhale, cactus the arms, bringing the elbows down toward the hips, lifting that chest up toward the ceiling. Exhale, release the hands back overhead, and then rain those fingers down. We're going to take your block on the left side and position it on the inner arch of the foot. Rooting your left hand down onto the block, we're going to tuck that back toe, hover the knee. Inhale, sweep that right arm up, taking a gentle spinal twist. And then exhale, release that twist. We're going to step off of that back foot, coming up to the top of your mat once again. Inhale, come on up into our mountain pose. Very good. Take a moment here just to recenter and to feel what's going on in the shoulders, the hips. Okay, so we are stepping the left foot back behind you, opening up into those warrior two legs once again. We're going to lace the fingers behind the hips. Okay. Draw those shoulders down and back as you open up across the chest. And imagine that you're pressing the fingertips down toward the floor. This might be enough of a stretch throughout the front of the body. If you want a little more, you can take a little forward fold, coming into our humble warrior. Fingertips head up toward the ceiling as the chest goes down toward the floor. Find a breath here. And then we'll exhale, release, coming back up. Let's straighten that front knee. We're going to bump the hips toward the back of your mat, engaging that outer hip muscle, reaching fingertips out nice and long. Go ahead and lean forward to the front of your mat. We're going to take the back of the hand to the front of the knee, and then inhale to reach that back hand up toward the ceiling. So we're finding our triangle pose. This is such a good pose for those shoulders. So we don't want the shoulders sliding up toward the ears. We want to keep them nice and relaxed away from the ears. Okay, so reaching up, up, up to the ceiling. And then using those core muscles, you're going to squeeze those abdominals as you lift it back up into our standing triangle and step it off to the top of your mat. Turning to face you, we're going to take the other side. Stepping your right foot back, we're going to open up into our warrior two legs on the other side. Lacing the fingers behind the hips, we're gently pressing the fingertips down toward the floor as you open up across the chest by kind of pinching those shoulder blades together. Exhale, begin to hinge forward at the hips if you want this variation. Floating those fingertips up toward the ceiling as the chest comes down toward the floor for humble warrior. Of course, checking in with how this feels on your back, your shoulders, your neck. And not pushing through that, but just honoring where your body is tonight. Exhale, release those hands and come on out of that forward fold. Okay, so we're going to come into a wide-legged forward fold. So I personally like a block for this one, so go ahead and grab that, and then we'll set you up for this pose. So placing the block on the floor, we're going to take a nice wide stance, turning those toes out a little bit. We're going to inhale, sweep the arms up overhead, and then exhale, hinge forward at the hips, diving the arms down until they meet your block, okay? If this is really intense, for the back of the legs, you can add a soft bend in the knees. Okay, so hopefully no low back pain here. We're trying to keep that chest lifted, spine nice and long from the top of the head to the tailbone. If you want the floor to come up to you a little more, you can tilt your block on its other side. Root your left hand down onto the block. We're going to inhale, float that right hand up to the ceiling, taking a gentle spinal twist. If it's in your practice, you can reach that right hand back behind you and over to that opposite hip crease. So that's called a bind. We're going to loop that right shoulder down and back so we open up across the chest. Exhale, release that twist, taking the right hand down onto your block. And we're going to inhale to float that left hand up toward the ceiling. Spinal twist to the left, finding a breath. If you wish to take the bind on this side, you can reach that hand behind you, taking the opposite hip crease and opening up across the shoulder. Exhale, release that twist. And we're going to heel toe the feet into the center of the mat. And we're going to inhale to roll it back up to standing here. Wonderful job. Okay, so nothing graceful about this. We're just going to take a seat. Coming down onto your yoga mat, extending those legs out long in front of you. She's showing off her downward dog. We're going to inhale to sit up nice and tall here, drawing the toes up toward the shins, and then exhale to hinge forward at the hips. So with this one, we don't want to round too much in the upper back. We want to just hinge at the hips, keep that chest nice and lifted. Taking a nice long breath here, trying to create some length throughout the back of the legs. And then exhale, release, walking those hands back up. We're going to hug your left knee into the chest. Sitting up nice and tall, growing tall through the crown of the head. Relax the shoulders down and back away from the ears. And then crisscross that left foot over right knee. We're going to take your twist to the left, kickstanding that hand back behind you, sitting up nice and tall. And then releasing that twist, extending that leg out nice and long. I think it's dinner time. She doesn't usually do this. We're going to hug that right knee in, sitting up nice and tall. Taking that right foot over left knee, we're going to take a little spinal twist off to the left, or excuse me, off to your right. Once again, not really leaning too far back into that hand, but we're still staying tall, lifted throughout the spine. Finding a couple of breaths here, really taking up all that rib space. And then releasing that twist, uncrossing the legs. And then we're going to bend both knees and send your hips down toward the knees and work your way down onto your back. Go down. Sorry. So on your backs here, if you have your yoga block handy, we're going to take that yoga block and put it between the knees, gently squeezing those knees together. We're going to press the hands into the floor and send the hips up toward the ceiling for our bridge pose. Okay, so I like the block because it prevents you from letting the knees flare open. We're going to lace the fingers underneath the hips and begin to walk the shoulder blades together to open up and expand across the chest. Taking some nice deep breaths here, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then releasing those hands, we're going to lower it down one spinal segment at a time, releasing the tailbone down to the floor. And you can move your block off to the side. You're going to take the hands out to the side in a T position and walk your feet out to the edge of your yoga mat. And just begin to rock the knees from side to side. Maybe you get some snap, crackle, pops in the back. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And find some stillness here. Okay. So we are going to set ourselves up for a more restorative type pose. So you're going to have to come out for a moment. Taking both of your blocks, if you have only one, you're going to place the block lengthwise so that we can put it between the shoulder blades. And then you might need to grab a pillow to put it underneath your head on top here. Or you can just use 2 blocks. Okay. So we're going to come up onto those yoga blocks here. So that lower one, so if your blocks are in a T position, that lower one is going to come down between the shoulder blades. And then the upper one is going to be underneath the head. Okay. I like to bend my knees in this one, finding a position that feels comfortable for you. So we're trying to just open up across the chest. Palms face up toward the ceiling. Imagine that you're making some snow angels. So we're going to inhale and reach those arms up overhead, and then exhale, release those arms down by your side. And we're going to take that a few times here, coordinating your breath to your movement. Not trying to feel any discomfort throughout the shoulders, so not pushing through any of that pain, but we're just trying to mobilize the tissue in the shoulder, in the pecs, so the muscles of the front of the chest. Great job. And then release the hands. We're going to take the hands and lace them behind the head. Okay, so we're drawing the elbows down toward the floor as you inhale to lift that chest up toward the ceiling. And then exhale, release that pressure. We're going to take that a few more times. Inhale, dropping those elbows down toward the floor, lifting the chest up. And then exhale, release. And let's take that 3 more times. Great job. Okay, so we're going to roll onto our right side. We're going to move that block between the shoulder blades off to your side, but you can keep the one underneath the head. Kind of like a little pillow here. You're going to reach those hands out in front of you, stacking one palm on top of the other. On your inhale, you're turning, bringing that left hand up and over for a gentle spinal twist. And then we'll exhale, release. Inhale, we're going to lift up and out. And then exhale, release. Keep going, working with your breath. Maybe trying to get a little more movement every time. Great job. Okay, so coming up through the middle, we're going to come over to the other side. Leg on that left side, we're reaching those hands out in front of you, stacking one palm on top of the other. On your next inhale, we're going to open it up, taking a gentle twist. And then exhale, release. Inhale, lift up and out. And exhale, release. Two more. Excellent job. So we're going to release that. And then find your way back onto your back. We can move that block off to the side. Okay. So taking another bridge pose variation, we're going to walk the heels up towards your bottom, trying to keep the feet and knees and hips all in line with each other. Okay. Hands down by your side. We're going to inhale, lift the hips up and float the arms up overhead. And then exhale, release everything back down to the ground. We're going to take that 4 more times. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, release. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, release. And then last one here. Excellent job. So sending both soles of the feet up toward the ceiling. We're taking happy baby pose here. So you can grab onto the shins or the outer edges of the feet. But wherever you are, we're going to widen the legs, bend the knees, And then gently pull the knees down toward the floor, either grabbing onto the shin, the ankles, or the outer edges of the feet. With happy baby poses is a hip and shoulder stretch. So we want to imagine that we're gluing the backs of the shoulders down toward the ground. Taking a couple of breaths here. And then maybe find some rocking from side to side, finding a little bit of play here. Maybe you want to kick one leg out and then the other. Great job. And then we can release both feet down to the ground. We're going to bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees fall open. Okay. And then allow the palms to come out to the side facing up toward the ceiling. Feeling that expansiveness across the front of the body, opening up that heart space. Taking a couple of nice long breaths here, in through the nose, out through the nose. And then we're setting ourselves up for our Shavasana. So if you wish to grab a blanket or a pillow or maybe something to cover your eyes, whatever is going to make you feel comfortable, just be here. And when you're ready, you can extend one leg out and then the other leg. Just allowing the toes to fall open, allowing your arms to rest where they feel comfortable. Maybe it's down by your side with the palms facing up. Maybe it's your hands on your belly. Whatever you feel comfortable with. And we get to tune back into the body, noticing the different sensations now compared to when you first started. Maybe you feel that energy flowing through the body. And when you're ready, you can close your eyes, trying to relax the forehead, allowing the eyelids to become heavy. Soften the jaw, relax the throat, and allow the tongue to rest on the roof of your mouth. Feeling the weight of the shoulders as they melt down into the floor, as that heart space opens up. Feel the contact of the back of the arms with the floor below you. Releasing any tension in the fingers. Allowing them to curl gently. Take notice of the rising and the falling of the chest and the belly with every inhale, with every exhale. You're going to breathe deeper into the spaces of the lower lung. Draw your attention now to the belly, the low back, the pelvic area. Try to release any tension there, gripping. Just let go. Now noticing that contact of the hips and the backs of the legs, heels to the ground below you. And feel that grounding, that support. Relaxing the tops of the thighs, the lower leg. Releasing tension between all of the little bones of the feet, the soles of the feet, and the toes. Every time you breathe in, imagine that you're breathing in relaxation. And every time you breathe out, you're breathing out love. Take a moment here in silence to focus on that breath. If your mind starts to wander, kindly bring the attention back to it. When you feel ready, we can come back into the body by making small movements of the toes and the fingers. And at your own pace, keeping the eyes closed, you can roll over onto one side and slowly prop yourself up to a seated position. Rooting those bones down into the ground below you and growing tall through the crown of the head. Bring your hands to heart center. And just take a moment here to imagine something that you're grateful for. And show yourself some appreciation tonight for showing up on your mat to carve out some time for yourself. And may you have peace in your thoughts, in your words, and in your hearts. And until I get to see you again, namaste. Great job.